Right, well, welcome, counselors, staff, and our invited guests today to the start of our council meeting on the 24th of November, 2022. We will start the meeting with a Karakia. Right. So everyone is welcome to participate in this. And does anybody want to be bold enough
Marnie will take the lead.
Happy to do that. Oh.
Inui tātou. It's really important that we all try to do this together. Okay?
Hau ki te uru, whakatakatea hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi ake ana te ata kura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora.
Oh, was that heard online, or shall I start again? All right, sorry about that. Button. Okay, so we're on item 3, which is confirmation of the agenda. So, councilors, we have a number of items on the agenda today. We have a few sets of minutes as well as the ordinary business of council, both in an open session and also in closed session. You'll note that item 8.2, which is the council appointments for the Triennium, I have submitted a chairperson's recommendation. And so the recommendation is foreshadowed as the motion on the table once we get to that item. That's all it is a recommendation. And so we'll take the time necessary to work through that process, work through those recommendations so we have a thorough decision-making process. And for clarity's sake and to support robust decision-making, we will be taking that recommendation in parts. So I move the confirmation of the agenda. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest from councillors with regards to items on the agenda today? Nope. All right. All right, to start off today, we've got a deputation from Anna Casey Cox with ACRE. So I invite the visitors to come to the council table there. If you press the button there, Anna, you should get a red light. Perfect. Yep. All right, so with the deputation, you've got 5 minutes to present, and we'll also hold 5 minutes for questions from councillors. All right.
Ina mana, ina reo, ina rau rangatira mā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I want to start by acknowledging you, Chair Pamela, and also Deputy Chair Bruce, and all the new councillors and returning councillors. And this is really an opportunity for ACRE to say kia ora, and that we are here to work with you and have been doing that since 1989. So ACRE has been around for that long. It's the Advisory Committee for Regional Environment, and I'm the current chair. And ACRE has been a place, I guess, for staff and councillors to come in a handy way, because we meet here at council to talk through issues And I wanted today mostly to highlight our membership, because I think sometimes you don't even really know who ACRE is, and you might be interested to know about some of our members. So if they can have the next slide, please. So firstly, we have Kerry Thompson, who's relatively new to ACRE, but very well known in the community, the CE of Ngāti Hawa Mahi Trust. So we're really honoured to have her as part of our membership. Brings significant expertise and knowledge in the space of actually building an organisation working to restore the whenua. We have John, who's also new to ACRE, and John is part of the Rivoli Environment Society and has been really instrumental in the protection of the peka peka, in particular in the new peacocks development in Hamilton. So again, bringing a lot of expertise to the group. We have Leanne Steele from the Whaingaroa Weed Busters. There's not much she doesn't know about weeds. So if that's something you want to understand more, she's very willing to talk. We have Shepherd Isaac, who's been part of ACRE for quite a while now, and brings huge expertise as well, part of the Hillcrest Restoration Project, as well as developing a proficiency in rāranga, which is, of course, from the looking after the harakeke and understanding that and bringing that knowledge back and building that knowledge back into our communities. Dr. Elisa Pesi-Havia, so she's a lecturer at Wintec and has a PhD in climate education. And she's working on a first policy in New Zealand that looks at climate refugees, which is really significant. Next slide, please. And lastly, we have Andrew Sinclair, Martin Wallace and Calvin. So Andrew is part of Te Ara Hikoi, which is up in the north of the Waikato region, working to restore across a large landscape collaboratively. Martin Wallace is a sheep and beef farmer out Te Aroha way, and you may have heard of him through the years. He's been very active in lots of different groups, but has a huge knowledge base around the RMA and planning. So we're very fortunate to have him. And Calvin, who works up in the Waikato Sanctuary. He's the manager there. And there's a lot that Calvin knows about trapping, pest trapping, and just generally taking care of the ngāhere. Next slide, please. So in terms of ACRE, one of the struggles that we've had is how to have a really effective voice and relationship with council. So that's primarily why I'm here today, to encourage that relationship. One of the things that we know is that there's a lack of community participation and democracy. So we're really keen to look at ways of encouraging community voice into council. And we have a lot of relationships across the region, so working to do that will be part of our focus going forward. We're really keen to support the development of the biodiversity strategy, which hopefully will come or has come into your agenda or will soon, and supporting the community to understand the significant reforms that are coming our way. We plan to show up during committee meetings to listen, and I think that's a really important aspect, and we'll ongoingly advocate for increased resourcing for biodiversity, working with the Biodiversity Forum and Rangatahi Voices. So thank you for having us today, for giving us this time, and we look forward to a good relationship with you and with the staff at Regional Council. Kia ora.
Thank you for that, Anna. Councillors, are there any questions or comments councillors would like to make? Oh, Councillor Nicol?
Okay, good on you for taking the initiative to get in really early and let us know who you are. Took me a while to get to know ACRE.
Sorry, Jen.
Yeah, it took me a while to get to know ACRE last Triennium, so good on you. And I'm mindful that you showed up a few months ago to really reflect on how the future could be different. So this is the what you've got there is what you're thinking.
Yep.
Awesome. Oh,
Thank you, Jen.
Good initiative.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for coming along, Anna. I'm keen at some stage to come along and sit in one of your meetings and get a better understanding of thank you for coming along and starting that relationship. Thank you.
Kia ora, Bruce.
Great, well, there's questions. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. First of, oh, yes, Shepherd, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hey,
There we go.
Mikey. Yeah, so in terms of participation, this year we've opened our project to the community. And it's more getting it and turning it into a hub. Education, we've already got the schools in there, I've had the Board of Education there, and they think that's a cool thing to do. We do tell our rangatei to put their phones away. No, we only ask 1 hour of their time, and I've got 1 hour to inspire them. What's on and around and in the tree. So it's been amazing. This last year was Tāne Mahuta and climate change. This year it's the cloak of Tāne Mahuta. Now I just want to explain the cloak. The cloak is people like myself, Kaitiaki, John, Anna, out there in our community, building awareness around how we breathe the Māori water of life. So, you know, this is big for me. And this is my last year for weaving. So, yeah, I've been so busy that my queer said to me, you need to slow down. So weaving is addictive and I love it. It's amazing. But at the same time, breaking boundaries and building stories around the boundaries. Kia ora.
Yes, Nicole?
I did just think of something else. Thank you. It's easy for these groups to become very Hamilton centric or start off that way because a lot of people are close to the city. Have you given some thought as to how you could become more regional in focus, or if you already are, how you could connect with the councillors that are from the further parts of the region?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. So our membership is regional. So yes, that's a great, and it would be neat. There's a number of new councillors who we don't know yet, from out of Hamilton, obviously. So we would really appreciate our members connecting to you, like Andrew up north and Leanne and Waikato district. So it'll be really important to have those relationships going forward as well. So yeah, again, you're welcome to come to our meetings and we will be coming to yours. So hopefully there'll be lots of interactions and ways of building relationship along the way.
Right. And we just have a comment online from Councillor Mahuta, just thanking you for your time and your presentation today as well. So if there's nothing else from councillors, thank you very much for taking the initiative to get in touch and ask for this time to speak to the council. As you noted, there are a number of new faces around the table, and ACRE has had such a extensive history with this council, and it's good to develop that understanding of what the organization is and the assistance it can provide to councillors and to this organization in terms of setting some of those broader directions for the region. So thank you for your time today.
Kia ora,
Kia
Mahi.
ora. Right. So this is the motion to receive that deputation moved by Councillor Nicol, seconded by Councillor Downard. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. So we now move on to item 6.1. This is on page 7 of your agenda pack. This is the open minutes from the council meeting of the 27th of October, 2022. Do I have a mover that those minutes? Councillor Nicol, seconded Councillor Hodge. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, and we now move on to item 6.2. This is page 13. These are the open minutes for the council meeting held on the 3rd of November, 2022. There will be minutes of the closed portion that we will deal with during our closed session. But do I have a mover that Please. Councillor Hughes. I have a seconder. Councillor Clarkson. All those in favor? Opposed? Right. Hey, are you joining us for the next item? So this is item 7.1, page 16 on your agenda. This is the Te Kōpu Kānapanapa minutes dated the 4th of October. Dated the 4th of October 2022, and this is just receiving these minutes. Molly, did you want to speak to these at all before we move them, or?
Only if it would be useful. Otherwise, you've got the information in your agenda. Happy to take it as read. The minutes are purely for noting and receiving because decisions were made under delegated authority. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Do I have? Sorry? Oh, is there? Oh, Councillor Mahuta has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cookson? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. So now we move on to item 8.1. This is page 25 of your agenda pack. This is the governance structure and terms of reference. Just a reminder that we've had 3 council workshops on this, as well as a number of conversations with myself and various councillors. So we have been through the various options that we had before us as council to set up a structure that we felt was best organized to deliver on the work program we have ahead of us for the next 3 years. So Molly, do you want to, is there anything you would like to present with regards to this item?
Tēnā koe, Madam Chair, tēnā koutou councillors. I will take the report as read. You've had all the information. And I'll just maybe highlight the purpose really of this item is to seek your approval of the committee structure. Along with that, the terms of reference that are also included within your report. Just with regard to committee structure, I think up on the screen, yes, there is, I guess, the list of those discretionary committees that make up the proposed committee structure. This is in addition to the mandatory committees that we must establish. And there is also a set of draft terms of reference for the proposed Metro Public Transport Subcommittee and Freshwater Policy Review Committee, which isn't part of the structure that you'll adopt today, but will be adopted. Well, the recommendation is that they are adopted so that further engagement can be undertaken with various stakeholders. And also there is a recommendation in the report to signal your intention to engage with targeted ratepayers of scheme land, iwi and stakeholders to discuss the mechanism for engagement in relation to integrated catchment management. So that is the item in a nutshell. And I'll hand back to the chair to facilitate discussion, debate and questions.
Councillor Mahuta, do you have a question online? No. Okay. Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, I do understand that Councillor Mahuta is en route to the to the meeting and is listening on Teams. So hopefully, oh, I'm just parked and walking in. Look at that real-time communication. Loving it. All right. Any questions or what's Councillor Nicol?
Yeah, thank you everyone for the effort put in and the workshops. There were 2 things I still felt strongly about that I just want to discuss, and those were The Climate Action Committee, I thought we landed on making that core. And it's already been reduced a number of members by about half. So I just think it sends quite the wrong message to say 6 monthly or as required. I understand in practice it doesn't actually, but I just thought that's where it landed, and so I wanted to agree. And the other one that I was interested to discuss today was the idea of the Strategy and Policy Committee being a committee of the whole, considering all of the reforms that are going on and the need for councillors to stay across that stuff and be fully engaged. So just putting that out there as 2 cents.
Any other comments? Oh. Sure. Oh, sorry. Councillor Smith?
Go back to my comments. I'm not going to go down without a fight on this one. The Strategy and Policy Committee, I still question the intelligence of having 10 of the 14 councillors as opposed to the 14, the Committee of the Whole. Strategy and Policy deals with some of the strategic issues that this council will face, and to exclude 4 from that committee, unless they wish to, seems counterproductive to being inclusive and realistically the business of council, whilst they can attend and without voting rights, the questions that they may wish to answer have answered, or they may have speaking rights perhaps. They are not full members of the committee. So I will be indicating that I will move an amendment to increase the committee membership to 14 at the appropriate time, Madam Chair. And you've heard my comments previously in workshops, but I like to see democracy given an opportunity rather than suppressed. So,
Sorry, what was that last
I
comment?
said I'd like to see democracy achieved rather than suppressed. So having 14 of us around on these strategic decisions, no one is compelled to attend, but the opportunity is what I would like to see afforded to everyone around the table.
Councillor Mahuta?
We're doing that again, or are we all on? On and we're on, okay. Kia ora Māori, just wanting to understand what success, if any, we've had in reviewing what can be done in civil defence. Was a question at the last council meeting, and I don't see the action here, or what can be done over the triennium.
Yes, so we have progressed that council direction with our friends across the road at Civil Defence, firstly through KEG, which is the CE group. The proposal gained good support from what I understand, and it is a matter going to the joint committee at its next meeting, which I believe is next week, to get confirmation that advisors from Waikato Regional Council, essentially our 2 Māori councillors, are included in the membership of the joint committee.
So sorry, as advisors, not as full members of the committee.
That's correct, and only on the basis that the legislation currently precludes that. There is no way that any council can have more than 1 voting member on the joint committee.
So we're not asking them to set aside the fact that they have no Māori representation in that committee at the moment, given the recommendations from the government about the inclusion.
From what I understand, when that legislation does come into play, which is anticipated at some point next year, the provision to be able to include Māori representation as voting members is likely to be the outcome. So until that legislation is changed, we are bound by what is currently the law.
Okay, I just note that in Bay of Plenty they've been more I just note it's within the power of the committee to act that way. But again, we'll leave it to the wisdom of the wider region then. So I guess then my question around that will probably go to the table, to the chair, is then why wasn't one of us put up? If we are waiting for a decision from that committee around where Māori sits for Waikato Regional Council, why isn't one of us put up on that committee? So that's a debate I brought to, the table in that way. So that saddens me that we didn't consider. I'm not really happy that we have to wait for legislation from a group to say whether Waikato Regional Council, who they put up. So that's my comment on that. I'm not going to debate why we did it and why we didn't, but I wondered if that was the case, why didn't one of us consider that committee?
Maybe, Madam Chair, could you explain why you? The two.
That's the next agenda item.
Will you address that at the time?
What we're discussing today, or what we're discussing on this governance structure and the terms of reference. Structure. I suppose that in terms of the range. Saying that there's no Councillor Strange, do you have your, sorry? It's gonna get really close to the microphones. Councillor Strange, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Just a process question.
Yes, go ahead.
As we're looking at the structure now, is it possible to change the number of membership after we adopt the terms of reference in the next item when we deal with the membership, or do we need to look at the number of members on each committee now?
The number of, oh, sorry, Molly, did you want to?
Yes, it would be appropriate to address the number of members in this item because it is your terms of reference that set that particular parameter. And so when we get to the next item, it is about appointing members to committees. So if there is just like Councillor Smith has put forward an increase to strategy and policy under this item, if there are any similar changes that members want to propose, this is where you should do that.
Thank you, Marley. Just a next question, if possible, please, Chair.
Yes.
I just, want to just agree with what Councillor Nicol was saying around climate action, and also Councillor Smith around strategy and policy. When I look at the membership suggested, the number on climate action, I really believe that increasing that number would give us more diversity of views on that committee, which would be really important moving forward, and especially our Māori worldview as well needs to be especially heard on that committee as well. Over to Stratton Poll, I agree with Councillor Smith that a committee of the whole would be the best way to ensure that all of those views that we've got from our very diverse region are heard and included, and just more efficient as well in the running of the committee when things come up to full council. And just lastly, if I may, on the civil defence, what Councillor Hodge and Councillor Mahuta brought up, I would agree with that as well. Thank you.
Councillor Mahuta.
Just in line with making the right comments in the right part of the meeting, Marley. A couple of check-ins on the JMA terms of reference. There's nothing in the terms of reference that preclude Katarana and I being the member for Regional Council on those committees.
No
Okay, thank you.
provision precludes any of our elected members from our joint
But
management
particularly
committees.
Katarana and I, because I know we're not on any. Thank you.
It doesn't preclude you, yes.
Right. And then the only other one I had was just in terms of membership and numbers, and it's more for the next debate, but if we're allowed 6 on finance and audit, then I just have concerns about us not filling that quorum now, because if it goes down to 2 people making financial decisions for this council, I don't think that's a high enough bar. So it's more for the next debate, but I note we're allowed 6 members and we don't recommend that in the next report. So not for you, Marley, just noting it for
Councillor Kneebone.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, support the comments around increasing Stratton poll to a committee of the whole. Just wanted to remind everyone that in terms of the Climate Change Committee, we started that the last triennium with a relatively small, similar to here. Partway through the year, it was acknowledged by full council that that was insufficient. There were too many parts of council business and representation from around the rohe that were not being adequately represented on that committee. So the council unanimously agreed to increase the membership to, I think it was 8, but 8 or 9. So I think we should bear that in mind. I do think the membership is too small.
Sorry, we've just been reminded to ask everybody to get very close to their microphone. Councillor Clarkson.
Yes, so just in view of the comments around membership numbers and the need for more diverse views around the table, integrated catchment management, as currently proposed, Madam Chair, does not have representation from Māori again. So to me, the key point here is the relationship with River Authority, all of the JMAs and all of those things, and that need to have a truly integrated approach, which includes the Māori worldview. I would like to signal in relation to integrated catchment management as it's currently proposed that it would be better if it was increased by 1 and we did something about that lack of inclusion.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on a point that Stu Kneebone has just raised, is that it is possible partway through a triennium to increase the people on a committee, and that it's something you test as you go, depending on demand. We don't know what climate action is going to be this time, or any of the others. So in accepting what's here now does not mean we cannot change that given demand.
Thank you. Councillor Nicol.
Just other people possibly benefit to adding 1 more for ICM and 1 more for climate action, but acknowledging Ben's comments. And so the key point, I think, is on strategy and policy. Yep.
All right. So from my point of view, where these tours have landed is a reflection of the results of all of the conversations we had over the 3 workshops, and the various conversations that I've had with various councillors as well. And in terms of strategy and policy, there was consensus during the workshop that there was a happy medium that needed to be struck between 8. Pardon me?
I never yielded on the position of a committee of the whole, so you cannot say there was a consensus. Sorry, I have to disagree.
I'm in the same
All
boat
right.
too, Madam Chair. I didn't
Noted.
either.
Noted. Thank you. I certainly would argue that the numbers that are put forward are adequate to get through the work of strategy and policy, and certainly would support the terms of reference that have been put forward. And as Councillor Dunbar-Smith noted, none of these are set in stone for the next 3 years. We can always revisit these if we see that things be rearranged or adjusted to respond to the varying needs of this council.
But could I
Councillor
raise a
Marr?
point of clarification at some point, please, Madam Chair, after Warren's gone? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have quite a robust workshop session, and going forward, just looking at the workload that's involved in all these committees, I'm quite happy where they've landed number-wise. Thank you.
Councillor Kneebone.
If a committee, and let's just take Stratton Pole as an example, and I decided at some point for the Triennium to increase their membership, is that a decision for the committee, or is it a decision for full council? And would the chair of the council and or the chair of the relevant committee, proportional to the discussion, have the casting vote on that decision?
Do you have a? Oh, sorry, I've got Councillor Mahuta and Councillor Hughes. If I could get you guys to turn your mics off.
Thank you. And thank you for your question, Councillor Kneebone. With regard to terms of reference, including those things that are within the terms of reference, like membership, scope of responsibility, delegated authority, those sorts of things, that decision is council's decision. And so if membership was to be increased for any of our committees throughout the Triennium, it would need to be a decision of council. The committee could make a recommendation, but ultimately council retains that decision.
And so the casting vote?
The casting vote for a decision on committee structure, terms of reference, would be the chairperson.
So just in closing, Madam Chair, it concerns me that you're maintaining quite a rigid view on this particular issue, and with the use of your casting vote, there may not be an open mind to change the numbers of the committee at a later date if we don't do it today.
I absolutely maintain an open mind, Councillor Kneebone, and my view today is a reflection on not only what we're hearing today, but also what we have heard through the 3 workshops and the various conversations that I have had. Councillor Mahuta, I'll come to you.
I note that a lot of this was discussed in the workshops and to the point that the chair made, but the report and its recommendations are the first time we get to understand what was heard in the workshops and what has progressed to recommendation for council. So today is the decision. Workshops are workshops, but today is where we say our understanding of where it's all landed. And I want to have the same confidence, but I did raise the matter that Katarainova and I have spoken to about civil defence in the workshops, and it's not reflected in the report. So hence raising it again today. Just on strategy and policy, Madam Chair. Again, I'm supportive of it being of the whole, because 10 is just about whole. And I've been a member left out of some committees before, but especially on strategy and policy, the weight of that work in this Triennium is huge. We will want a decent quorum of councillors to be over that, and we don't want a triplicate debate when those reports get back to council by 4 members who weren't involved. I know they can participate, but their decision-making right is when it gets to council. And we've had that before. We've undone things at the council decision. So greatest opportunity for success, I believe, is if we're all on Stratton policy, because then we don't have to have the same debate when it comes up to council with 4 members that weren't part of the decisions of Stratton policy. That's for efficiency. That's my support of the resolution. Kia ora.
Councillor Hughes.
I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Marr said, that we have had 3 workshops on this subject. I personally don't like going back and relitigating. I think you have an opportunity to sit in a meeting, you contribute at that meeting, and if you don't like the outcome, then you can talk about it at a later stage, but you don't go back and try and change what's already agreed. As far as Stratton Poll's concerned, I haven't been involved in it. I'm relaxed about the numbers, to be quite honest. I don't think it makes a lot of difference. To me, a committee of more than 8 is wasted because you've got people sitting around their time. Sure, they can contribute, but there's an optimum number of people in a committee, and I think we should be trying to stick to that, depending on the subject matter. And as I said, I can't really, I don't have a feel for Stratton Poll at this stage, but I think I've signalled pretty clearly to everybody around this table that I want to see efficiency from this council, and I don't want to see us wasting time debating things which we've already discussed.
Sorry, point of clarification, Madam Chair. Just in response to Chris's comments, I felt he was indicating that we'd reached a decision in the workshops as to
No,
what the,
I'm
I
sure
don't
that's
believe
not
we
what he
did,
was
Madam Chair, so
actually meaning. Because that's not what we do in workshops. We have
we did not reach a decision,
discussions.
Chris, and so the inference that we did and we've already agreed on something is completely incorrect.
Sorry, Noel, can I get you?
I'm
Sorry,
sorry, but
Councillor
that's what I
Smith,
heard you,
can I?
that's the words I heard you use.
Well, if I said decision, I thought we had a consensus, right? Probably the wrong word.
So how do you define a consensus?
The majority of the people were comfortable with the situation that we'd reached.
On whose
People around the
termination?
table.
All right.
So
We didn't.
Okay, thank you. Now, Councillor Dunbar Smith, did you have your light on earlier? No, you happy to go because we've got Councillor Strange online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just wanted to pick up on what Stu just said in regards to decision making in workshops, but he's already covered it, so no further comment. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, it's time we address the elephant in the room. And that is that, sorry, I'm trying. The committee structure is stacked. The next item is stacked, and the power of the council is going to be with a minority of members. 400,000 people, maybe 500,000 people are in this region. 14 of us were elected to do the business on their behalf. By having small committees as low as 5 and up to 10 is not utilising the full wisdom of the 14 members who were elected to do the business of council. I accept that smaller committees are commonplace. However, in such a divided council, and you are there only for having your name pulled out of a hat, what we are projecting to the community is a divide and conquer, divide and rule, and this is not a good way to be projecting into the community. I came into this council with my eyes wide open. You had contacted me and offered me a position, horse trading, and when I said no, you threatened me that I would not be given a position. You have been true to your word.
Councillor, that is absolutely not true. That
you want me to
is
produce the
not
recording,
true.
Madam Chair? You want me to produce the recording of the conversation? So I will have if I can finish what I was saying. The reality is that we can continue as we are, and you're sidelining some very good people. I would like to see a more open course of action as we go forward. Add my piece. Thank you.
All right. So we don't at this stage have a motion on the table. Sorry, we've had many goes, so I would like to move. I would like to move the governance structure and the terms of reference and the associated items of reference, setting the powers delegated to each committee.
Point of
So
order,
I'm
please.
moving it. Do I have a seconder?
I thought that there was a foreshadowed motion that we amend.
I didn't. Did I hear the word foreshadowed? We didn't have a motion on the table at that stage. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes, thank you. Absolutely.
Division, please.
Oh, sorry, I thought my voice was loud enough, so. So that's the amendment, Madam Chair.
Right, so we've got an amendment.
For the
that-
two
so
particular
it's
areas of the
all of
substantive.
Sorry, I don't.
I'll second the amendment. Yeah.
Would be a committee of the whole of the club actually to meet quarterly. I did indicate that I wanted the numbers increased, but if increased to 8 and quarterly. So moved.
All right, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Mahuta? Right. So we'll put this amendment first. Good. What, do you want,
The amendment that we have on the floor is that the terms of reference for the Strategy and Policy Committee be amended to be a committee of the whole, and that the Climate Action Committee meet quarterly and the membership be increased to 8.
Can I just make a suggestion for the mover and seconder of the amendment? It might be more practical to have each of those things set out separately in case some members are happy to support some but not all of those things. Would that be suitable?
all right. So we will. Sorry. For the Strategy and Policy Committee be amended to be a committee of the whole. Those in favor? Sure.
As Councillor Hughes has indicated, he's neither bothered either way, but it's his concern over committee size. There's been an expression from a number of councillors that that particular committee be representative. If we get everyone there every time, great, but that's often not the case in my experience. So this is about openness and transparency and inclusiveness. Just ask councillors to be open-minded on this particular. Thank you.
All right. Is your intention to speak to each of these individually, or do you want to speak? Have a division called for. So
May I raise a question first
sure.
to the motion? Just on process, what happens if we can't populate, say, the increased 8? How does that sit, Marley?
Can
So
you
the
just talk a bit more about what you mean?
Sorry, so we're changing the terms of reference to 8 in that last item. What say we cannot populate that 8? How does?
Populate the 8. So once we get to that particular amendment, it will either be passed or it won't, depending on how voting goes once we get to that particular clause. And then in the next item, if it is increased to 8, then we'll put forward, or you will put forward your nomination for those people that will fill those positions. If we can't fill 8 because we don't have willing people to do so, then we'll have to address it at that time.
Yeah.
Look, I'd like to speak in favour of the amendment. Could I just point out that a number of us here have not been asked whether or not we're interested in going onto some of the committees that that you are recommending we go onto, Madam Chair. So the concept of this, I have no idea which way you're intending to go on this one, Warren, but the concept of that being an issue is kind of a strange one, given the background to the recommendations that you've given to us in the next item, Madam Chair. At the end of the day, the quorum is 50%, so it's never been an issue in the past.
All right, so we've got the amendment, got a mover. Yeah. All right. Okay, how do you? Well, but we've yes. So this is, so just so we're all clear, this is, we're voting in favor of amending the tours for strategy and policy to make it a committee of the whole, or against that.
I just noticed meet quarterly or as required. Just didn't want to change it to quarterly.
We're not
Yeah.
doing that one yet,
Oh,
so
cool.
we can
Just
make
for
that
Dave.
change when we move.
Members, I will call your names, and can you please indicate whether you support or oppose the first part of this amendment, starting with Chair Story,
Opposed.
Councillor Clarkson, Councillor Cookson, Councillor Downard, Councillor Dunbar-Smith, Councillor Graff, Councillor Hodge, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Kneebone, Councillor Ma, Councillor Mahuta, Councillor Nicol, Councillor Smith, Councillor Strange,
Support.
Okay, we have a draw. The votes are 7-all.
Just a point of sort of not a point of clarification order. I just note that without all the lights on, Madam Chair, those that are listening in aren't hearing people yes or no because we don't have time to. Is it possible to have all the lights on, or is there a reason why we don't?
Just for ease of chairing the meeting, we can, what we'll do is when we're calling names, we will wait until people are able to put their microphones on so that people can hear. Right, so can you?
Yep. So at the moment, we have a draw. The chair is able to use her casting vote if she so wishes.
Could I ask a question? Considering that this is a similar split we've had before, wouldn't it be worthwhile heeding the advice that we got in the good governance training to just take an adjournment, see if any agreement reached to make us get away from this kind of 7-7 split stuff? Just a question.
I am happy to continue on. Thank you. So I will use my chair's casting vote to vote against that amendment. The motion was lost. We'll move on to the second part of it, that the Climate Action Committee meet quarterly. Sorry, or as necessary.
To clarify there, the substantive motion is that it's 6 monthly or as required. This is quarterly or as required. That's the difference. Yeah.
All right. Shall we go on with?
Okay, so same process again. The part of the motion that's on the floor is that the Climate Action Committee meet quarterly or as required. I'll call your names. Can you please indicate whether you support or oppose the motion? Councillor Story,
Happy to support. Sorry? No, when he calls your name, we'll wait until you turn your light on and so people can hear.
Councillor Clarkson,
Support.
Councillor Cookson,
Support.
Councillor Downard,
Support.
Councillor Dunbar Smith,
Support.
Councillor Graff,
Support.
Councillor Hodge,
Fine.
Councillor Hughes,
Support.
Councillor Kneebone,
Support.
Councillor Marr,
Support.
Councillor Mahuta,
Tautoko.
Councillor Nicol,
Support.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Strange.
Support.
Unanimous. Motion, or that aspect or that item in this, within this amended motion passes. All right, on to the third part, which is that the climate action membership be increased to 8. Did anyone want to speak to that, or we have to go? Pardon me?
I could just say a couple of words and that from just prior experience. Yeah, we did increase it over time because we were touching on topics that were across various committees. Mindful that this is a topic that for when we've got 8 new councillors, it can be a really good opportunity to learn about the topic, should you come along as a member or not. But I wanted to just take the opportunity as well to say thank you for the unanimous support to the idea of the Climate Action Committee meeting quarterly, since it is a rather urgent issue after decades of inaction. Really grateful for that, so that we can keep progressing things as we go. Thank you.
All right.
Again, a
Sorry.
division.
Sorry, did you?
I just wanted to speak in support of the resolution. That part. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay, so at the sector meetings for local government New Zealand and local government New Zealand, and even in the zones, climate change has become on the radar of all councils to some degree. They want to talk up into us. So again, looking forward to a point in this triennium where we seek wider regional membership from TAs in the climate action space. Jen, just wanted to get that on the record now because they're asking for it. So kia ora.
All right. So we will now put this out. We have listed as well.
Okay, I'll call your names. Please indicate whether you support or oppose that the Climate Action Committee membership be increased to 8 members. Councillor Story,
Opposed.
Councillor Clarkson,
Support.
Councillor Cookson,
Oppose.
Councillor Downard,
Oppose.
Councillor Dunbar Smith,
Oppose.
Councillor Graff,
Oppose.
Councillor Hodge, Councillor Hughes,
Oppose.
Councillor Kneebone,
Support.
Councillor Marr,
Oppose.
Councillor Mahuta,
Tautoko.
Councillor Nicol,
Support.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Strange.
Support.
Once again, we have a draw, 7 for, 7 against.
Happy to use my casting vote. Opposed. That motion lost. So we now go back to the substantive motion,
Any more?
but we are including that the Climate Action Committee is
I'll come up. A minute, I'll come up. We have a substantive motion on the screen. I'm happy to read it out if you would like.
Yes, please.
The substantive motion falls in 7 parts. And those parts are as follows: that the report be received, that to most effectively and efficiently discharge Council's responsibilities to provide governance oversight along and complementary to the oversight provided by Council and the mandatory committees, the following discretionary committees and subcommittees are established. Those being the Risk and Assurance Committee, the Finance and Services Committee, the Chief Executive Employment and Remuneration Committee, the Strategy and Policy Committee, the Submissions Subcommittee, the Waikato Plan Leadership Committee, the Integrated Catchment Management Committee, the Environmental Performance Committee, and the Climate Action Committee. Item 3, that the associated terms of reference setting out the powers to each committee and subcommittee attached to the agenda Council 24th of November are adopted, however noting that we have an item 7 that will require a change to those. Number 4, that the draft terms of reference for the proposed Metro Public Transport Subcommittee attached to the agenda are improved for engagement with Hamilton City, Waikato District, Waipa District and Matamata-Piako District Councils. That the draft terms of reference for the proposed Freshwater Policy Review Committee attached to the agenda are approved for engagement with iwi partners. That engagement is undertaken with targeted ratepayers of Schemeland, iwi and stakeholders to discuss mechanisms for consultation under the Integrated Catchment Management Committee. And finally, that the Climate Action Committee meet quarterly or as required.
And that was moved.
And it has been moved and seconded.
Just a question for clarity, Madam
Yes.
Chair. The JMAs don't need to be in the resolution, they're all in the report. Thank you, Marley. Just for clarity, I just want to make sure we've covered all our bases.
Yes, good question. The individual committees that have just been read out are the discretionary committees. All of the mandatory committees were named as mandatory committees. So by adopting what's in front of you, we are adopting terms of reference for mandatory committees. Yes, and just a point, we have no option. We must adopt those mandatory committees. They make up your committee structure.
All right.
As the division was called previously, we have a substantive motion on the floor. Again, I'll call your names and can you please indicate into your microphones if you support or oppose? Chair Story.
Support.
Councillor Clarkson. Councillor Cookson.
Support.
Councillor Downard.
Support.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Support.
Councillor Graff.
Support.
Councillor Hodge.
I can't think. I support.
Councillor Hughes. Councillor Kneebone.
Support.
Councillor Marr.
Support.
Councillor Mahuta.
Abstain.
Councillor Nicol.
Support.
Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith indicates he supports the motion. Councillor Strange.
Support.
We have 13 members in support, 1 abstention. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. We'll now move on to item 8.2. This is page 170 of your agenda. So councilors, as noted at the beginning of the meeting, I submitted a chairperson's recommendation and the previous item. What heading? Oh. Okay, we're good. You want to turn your light off there? All right, so as noted at the beginning of the meeting, I've submitted a chairperson's recommendation, and that recommendation is foreshadowed as the motion on the table. And that's all it is a recommendation. And so we'll take the time necessary to work through those recommendations and get through the decision-making process. For clarity's sake and to support robust decision-making, I will take the recommendation in parts. At this point, though, I do intend to put forward an additional clause to the motion, and that is that the appointment of chairs and deputy chairs of discretionary committees is delegated to those committees. Happy to move that at this stage. But before calling for a seconder, I will invite discussion and questions. Yes, Councillor Kneebone.
Yeah, look, thanks, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak. I wish to respectfully share with you and with all of us here that I'm really disappointed in the way in which you, Madam Chair, have gone about this process of deciding and sharing with us who you're recommending to populate our council committees. And that's because many of us have made numerous polite requests, professional requests to you over the past 2 or 3 weeks to understand your intentions with regards to this issue that's in front of us now. But you've consistently refused to share anything with us in terms of your recommendations and your views. But despite that, you've forced us to find out what your plans were for the following agenda item via the public council agenda on our website. In other words, we found out at the same time as the general public and at the same time as the news media. And look, again, very respectfully, I'm struggling to believe that you deliberately chose not to share those plans and recommendations with us, your team, before you shared it with the press and the public. And I'll be honest, it's beyond belief, and I think it's completely inconsistent with the comments you've made over the past number of weeks for your desire for us to be a team and for us to be valued members of your team. Now, I'll be honest, and I think I speak for all of us here, we want to be part of your team, Madam Chair, and we've been telling you that regularly since you became our chair on day one. Why you couldn't share your plans and your recommendations with us before you told the press, it just feels to me like you're treating with us as second-class citizens, and you've got no respect for us, Madam Chair, and how we're supposed to build a positive and inclusive team culture. If this is going to be the pattern of leadership that we've got to work with going forward, it's beyond me. So I want to fix this, but we're looking to you as to how we do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you for those comments. As I iterated at the start of this agenda item, we have had 3 council workshops on this. I have had numerous conversations with with everybody. I have had conversations with every single councillor. You know, the difficulty with the committee structure and the membership of committees is that we have numerous committees to populate, and not everybody gets everything they're interested in. Some people end up on things that they're not necessarily interested in because we have to fill the spots on these committees. I have, I'm sure that if you look through and recollect the conversations that I have had, there are some things that I have been able to accommodate people's desire to be on a committee, and others that I haven't been able to. That's the way this goes. There's not enough committees and not enough spaces for everybody to be a part of absolutely everything they want. But we do need to get a structure in place. We do need to get membership in place so that we can move forward and get on with the work that is in over the next 3 years. All right,
Madam Chair,
Councillor Smith.
I would like to understand your foreshadowed motion and the amendment you are suggesting. Where in standing orders does it allow for the appointment of chairs and deputy chairs of committees to be delegated to the subordinate committees when it is customary, and I believe the practice of council to appoint the chairs of committees and subcommittees? So I would like to understand where that power you're suggesting comes from, please.
Molly, would you like to comment on that? Sorry, we've got.
Channel.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the question, Councillor Smith. Just referring to the report within the agenda, if you perhaps take a look at page 176. Membership to committees and other groups is covered by a couple of clauses within Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act, Clause 31 and Clause 25. Both of those clauses are set out on this particular page. When voting for a chairperson or deputy chairperson, as provided for under that clause 25, if you have a look at 1A. In the next clause, under number 2, it says that if this clause applies, a local authority or a committee, if the local authority has so directed, must determine by resolution that person to be elected or appointed. So that's where it's set out. It's not in standing orders, it's within the Local Government Act.
Does not say that the council can delegate to subordinate committee to determine its own committee chair and committee deputy. I'm asking for the specific provision in the legislation where council can delegate that to the committees themselves.
I just want to add a further question to that, just for efficiency reasons. Marley, is this suggesting that any time going forward, once the committees have established and their chair and deputies are established, then equally the committee can then choose to change their chair and or deputy themselves? In other words, they do not need the blessing of full council. And even if full council had elected and appointed chairs and deputy chairs of committees, it would seem to me that with consistency, if I'm hearing is correct, then the committees could still decide to replace their chairs and deputy chairs.
If the decision today was made to delegate decision making about selecting chair and deputy chairs, then yes, that would apply going forward.
Are you saying that if this council appointed the chairs and deputy committee could not change them?
That's actually a really good question, Councillor Kneebone, and I have the answer for you.
Of course we do, Molly.
If you have a look at the clause above it on page 176, this relates to appointment of membership of committees and subcommittees. And it's pretty clear that a local authority may appoint or discharge any member of a committee or subcommittee. And so council can discharge any member of a committee.
That wasn't my question.
In that, where in section 31 of the Local Government Act does it say council can delegate to a committee the appointment of the committee to appoint the chair and deputy chair? I'm reading this section. It does not say that to me.
It's
That's it.
outlined in clause 25, and my apologies if that wasn't clear. It's not in 31, but if you have a look under clause 25, voting systems, this clause applies to the election or appointment of chairs and deputy chairs of a committee as set out in 1D. And then the following clause,
With greatest respect, Madam Chair, that it takes council to make those decisions on the committee and the deputy chair. It's not delegating to that committee. With greatest respect, Marley, and I'm pretty good with the legislation, having spent the last 40 years involved in it. And I'm not trying to say that you're not as competent as myself or anyone else. The reality is I'm challenging you strongly on your interpretation of the Act. The council, in my view, cannot delegate to a committee in law the appointment of chairs and deputy chairs of those subordinate committees. And it remains with this council. So your amendment, Madam Chair, I believe is ultra vires. I'm happy for you to take an amendment and get legal advice, Madam Chair. Adjourn it.
can I just make another point? If you, and I won't continue to argue the fact about clause 2 within 25. But the other thing that I'd say is that council has the authority to delegate powers. And there's only a small list of powers that council cannot delegate. And they are things like adopting an annual plan, approving a regional policy plan, those sorts of things. But council does have the ability to delegate powers. There is nothing preventing council from delegating this decision to committees.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you.
LDS section 31 deals with a specific matter. And that would be reliance on a general provision. So anyway.
I just
right.
have clarification, because I didn't quite understand, Marley. Maybe I didn't put it properly. I'm hearing very clearly from you that council can delegate to the committees the powers to elect their chairs and deputies. And that if a committee became unhappy with, for whatever reason, their chair came ill or passed away or they didn't like him, whatever, can the committee subsequently change their chair without the approval of the council, express delegation of the council? Any point going forward? Because in the past, when this council has changed a couple of committee chairs for various reasons, that resolution has always come as a directive from council.
All right, just so I can get some clarity on this matter, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Right. Oh, sorry. Did you?
Can I respond to just that one question before we adjourn? The key to whether or not the committees can continue to hold this authority of appointing their chair and deputy chair is in the resolution on the screen. So what it's saying here is that the appointment of the chair and deputy chair is delegated to committees and subcommittees. If it is the intention of council in making this decision to leave the delegation there or restrict the delegation, then you need to make that clear within this resolution.
All right, I'm just going to adjourn the meeting right now so that we can have a bit of a chat and so I can be very clear on where we're at. All right. So we're going to adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So the meeting is adjourned until 11:02.